We've had quite an interesting week. I am joined by Doctor
Hey.
and HJax again.
Well,
Thank you both for joining us. Yeah, it's been a fun week. I think the first thing we have to talk about is a few announcements. Some of you may already have heard. We've extended the tournament for the ladder to 12 bots instead of 8. So essentially now the top 12 will be the ones qualifying. Um, so yeah, hopefully that means Kagomine should make it. And Beyond Junior, maybe. There's a chance, man. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, in its current state, it has a couple issues. Like, so.
if it
um,
queues
it,
only my bot, then
Yeah.
it can. Because for some reason, my bot has a stroke whenever it plays Beyond Junior and finds the most creative ways to lose.
I mean, when I first wrote it, like, all I did was just against Zerg and, like, your bot. So, like, whatever version I had,
Yeah.
which is, so. It's probably not even relevant anymore because your bot's gone through so many changes. But I'm like,
But it still manages to lose to Beyond Junior, so
it was so
something.
funny. I saw the game that got streamed. I'm like, oh dear.
Yeah,
Oh
so
dear.
my bot assumes that if there's a barracks being built closer to its base than to its opponent's base, that it isn't in its main base. So it builds spines at its natural. So it built a bunch of spines in its natural and then lost all the drones in its main to Reapers and went, oh, that was bad. Then it was
Yeah.
basically dead.
Yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, there's been a lot of fun games we've been having recently. So yeah. The other announcement which we have to make is we're setting up a Patreon site. Now I know a lot of people have been asking about donating money and everything to the Starcraft AI ladder, but as I was saying last week, it's not something that I've really wanted to go down because of
Mhm.
the whole idea of this being kind of like a whole hobby project for me, But looking at the economics of it, that looks like the best way of doing it. So that will be coming this week. Again, there is not going to be any pressure for anyone to donate. We'll have some banners on the website and some stuff like that to give away for it, but there's not going to be any pressure. There's not going to be any competitive advantage for anyone who donates, but any donations would be very welcome.
Even
Uh,
if you just put like a little star or something next to the bots that are whose authors are donators on the leaderboard, that would be just like something to show.
yeah, I think that's the plan. But yeah, so we'll be setting that up this week. There'll be details coming on the Discord and probably on the website. So again, no pressure for anyone to donate. We'll we'll have some minor cosmetic advantages, but no, you'll gain no competitive advantage except for our eternal thanks. I don't know if that's really a competitive advantage, but oh well.
Well, authors will find a way. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure they will. So that's good. Um, so yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Oh, the other thing is we're setting up a way to do a distributed ladder with a series of trusted hosts. I was planning on having that ready this weekend, but my laziness has prevailed and I haven't quite managed to finish it. So sorry. Hopefully there'll be more details on that coming next week.
I mean,
So
the
yeah.
bots are still getting games. It's not like the ladder's a standstill.
No, I mean we haven't had that many since last week. I think since the cut-off point for the tournament, everyone's got their bots in and now waiting for next season or whatever. But there's still lots of updates coming, so that's good. Um, so yeah, hopefully, at the very least, that'll be ready for next season, and we'll have everything running a lot faster next season. Um, but yeah, so the first thing we want to talk about is the Probots tournament. HJax, congratulations, made it into the second round.
Barely. After getting
Good
work
job.
crushed like 3 times or 2 times or something.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. And Doctor, Beyond JR was a blue shell.
I wasn't expecting much from it.
Well, it did take out, I think it took out Sarzabot, didn't it? In,
Uh, uh, oh,
No,
did
it
it?
took out me.
I mean, I got 2 games off of it. And I saw the game that took off from
Oh no,
HX.
sorry,
I'm
that
like,
was UHX. There was. Hold on. Oh no,
My
you.
bot just cheesed out Sarzabot.
Ah, yes, sorry, that was the one. But yes, no, you took out HX's spot. That was the blue shell at the time because HX was leading with a perfect record.
Yeah, I was 4-0, and then I went 1-3
Yeah,
on stream, and I was like, well, this is sad.
oh dear.
yeah, but that's cool. You still qualified. Um,
Yeah, and I
go
should play
through.
the top seed in Group B, which isn't decided yet because there's a 3-way tie for the top seed of Group B.
Yeah, that's right. That's very close. Let's have a look. I think. Yeah, because they've got 3 bots on 6 for 2, which is C-bot, Yobot, and Micro Machine. Are they going to play tiebreaker matches for that, or is that just going
Yeah,
through?
they said they were going to resolve it off stream and then announce those pairings.
Okay. I'm not sure if that's been done yet, but
I don't think it has.
okay. So, I mean, let's just play a bit of Imagine here. Like, who would you most like to face? Who do you think you
Beetlebot.
got? Yeah.
Because
Oh,
my bot does really well against Yobot, I think. I don't know how that version does against Yobot, actually. Let's check.
I don't think it does too badly. Like, um,
Wins 37% of the time against Yobot, so I guess it isn't great. My other bot wins every time locally and finds creative ways to lose on ladder, which is fun.
yeah. That happens to a few bots. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's just stage fright on the part of the bots or something.
Yeah, because I'm like, I've tested it. Like, the same thing with the worker rush bots. Like, I tested it, my bot versus a bunch locally. It was winning every game. I upload it, and my bot just, like, tries to build its spawning pool near where the workers are fighting, so it just fails to build its pool and then just never gets lings and loses. And I'm like, that didn't happen when I was testing.
Yeah. Oh, but I think there's like the versions on ladder are slightly different sometimes, and like people do a lot of updates and stuff. So it's possible that people have updates since you last got it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's also like the bots and pro bots are so old that I probably have better win rates against them than I do on ladder. Just because the version I've submitted to pro bots is
ooh,
effectively
you're
like
coming
2 or
through
3 months
very
old.
loud there. You're coming through very loud there for a second.
Really?
Yeah, it definitely did increase in volume. Oh,
Uh, I have no idea why that happened.
That's okay. Hold on, I can just
I mean, I could hear you a bit better now, so.
yeah. Give me a sec. I'll see if I can change the volumes on here. Maybe stream chat. Like, are you? How's the volume level? Sorry. Um,
They say it's better now.
okay, that's good. That's fine. We'll go with that anyway. But yes. So, Doctor, are you planning any updates for Beyond Junior to get him up the ladder a bit?
I mean, eventually. My priorities are just usually like website stuff and things I can push the community a bit farther. But
Yeah.
if I had to, I'd probably teach them about Dark Templars and teach them also to do, like focus on attacking a bit more. Like right now, his highest priority is not losing any Reapers, which works pretty well a lot of the time. But they all look at it individually. So they're like, oh, if I jump in, I'm going to die. But it needs to learn that sometimes a couple Reapers need to die for the greater good.
Yeah.
I think there was some fights in Pro Bots I could have won if I just attacked,
Yeah.
So.
Let this be a lesson. Self-sacrifice is good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not jumping up in front of a stalker from a bot, but maybe the Reapers will. So.
That's cool. But yeah, so it looks like the Probots tournament is going to be really interesting in the last round. Like, there's a few decent matches. I mean, the only match we know for certain, I think, is Sastra against Spaceman. And
Yes.
I don't know how that looks on ladder. Let me just check. But I think like the version of Spacemen on a Probots tournament is vastly different to how it works on ladder at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Probot Spaceman is a mix of the Snowbot and the Spacebot on ladder because it does both the macro-y things and the proxy hatch.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than it is on ladder. So maybe if he submits the version for ladder, he might climb up into the tournament.
Or
So
maybe he's just like
Spacemen, go for it.
really lucky.
Yeah, yeah.
Could just be really lucky and it's the same as his ladder version.
Uh, maybe.
I'm not sure. I mean, Spacebot isn't that low rated on ladder.
No, let me check.
It's like middle of the pack.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's on 1240 at the moment. I think the cutoff at the moment is Madbot would make it in.
Yeah, so 1302
Yeah,
rating.
yeah. So yeah, I mean it's 60 elo points, which is not impossible. But yeah, it just needs a bit of an upgrade. But yeah, so it looks like things are calming down now. People are the updates have seemed to have slowed in the last few days, which I'm kind of grateful for. Like, I was really struggling to keep up with for a while, but
Yeah, I feel like you just need to like have some approved authors who can just update as many times as they want.
yeah, I think that's probably a good plan. Uh,
Because like it's not like me or Nike or Tier are gonna like intentionally destroy the ladder, right?
no, not
I
until
mean, if things are running on a virtual machine, like it shouldn't affect too much, right?
yeah.
Like,
It's something I want to look at for next season. Um, so I think
because
possibly,
each bot is running in their own container, then you can just automatically group everything.
uh,
And if it breaks, then
yeah,
no more of that for a while.
that's a big problem because if we run everything in its own virtual container, it's just a
Mm-hmm.
lot slower.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so yeah, um, I think at the moment having sort of like certain trusted people that can just update whenever, I think that's probably a
Mm-hmm.
good plan. Um,
Okay.
but I mean, it's just a case of like, how do we decide that? And like, obviously, working out the details. So yeah, I mean, again, having the distributed ladder is also going to make my life a lot easier and get a lot more people decent games, which is going to be good. But then the other issue is if we have the distributed ladder and then I'm running code on other people's machines as well, I want to be a bit more careful with that, you know. But yeah,
I
so
mean,
hopefully,
the, the easy solution is keep track of the RNG seed and the versions of bots used to run the game, and then if you ever are suspicious, you just verify results,
yeah,
right? So
Yeah, I mean, you could just have a bunch of like flags that like prevent an automatically approved bot from being approved. Like you could like for instance, if you get the debug printout, immediately just disable the bot until an admin checks it.
yeah,
If the bot crashes, immediately disable the bot until the admin checks it. Stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, that would work. Um, yeah, I'll work out the details anyway, and we'll get onto that. But yeah, hopefully things will make my life a lot easier. Um, but I mean, the idea also is we might be able to get some cloud time from Google as well, which would make things a lot easier.
That'd be great.
Again, like it's something I'm working on, but like as with all these things I found with sponsorship and everything like this, it's all a case of just waiting and getting authorization from X number of people and everything like that. So yeah, it's a lot of hoops to jump through, but as soon as we get it, I think we'll be in a better position. Um, but yeah, as anyone who'll tell you who's ever done any sponsorship from anything, it's a lot of hoops to jump through. Um, but yeah, we're getting there. So yeah, another thing that people have been talking a lot about today on the Discord channel is the open source requirement for bots and everything. So I know some people were confused about it, but the way the system is working at the moment is the tournament at the end, all the bots that qualify, the source will be held secret until the end of the tournament. and then we'll be able to release. Now, I know people might be annoyed about this, but like this is the way that the AIIDE and the Student Starcraft tournament have run. And like after speaking to a bunch of people from that, it seems to be like it's very helpful for allowing new people onto the ladder if there's a vast code base there of stuff. But yeah, what are your thoughts about it anyway?
I'm a fan. I want to see bots get as strong as possible. And, I think not keeping trade secrets helps accelerate the process. But
Yeah.
So like my big concern with open source bots is like it punishes people who want to do everything themselves. If you can just take a like kind of well accepted strong bot, make a few changes to it, and say this is my bot now, which is why I was saying I want some sort of threshold for bot originality where like you can't just grab a bot and say, it'd be trivial for instance to take my bot, have it one base Roachelin or one base Link Flood every single game, and it would probably do reasonably well, right? But like that's a 5 minute change on a bot that's taking me literally months, right? So
Yeah.
like I don't think submissions like that should be allowed.
No, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that entirely. Um, it's very difficult to police that. Um, and I think we had like because YoStalkBot and YoBot were on the ladder, and like there were concerns about that, which I raised, and I know a lot of other people have raised as well. Um, kind of I looked at that, and my original reaction was to reject it, but after some changes, I decided that it was different enough to accept. Um, but yeah, I definitely would go against plagiarism and just stealing something and changing a couple of lines and sticking it on. I think that's wrong. But I I do kind of like want to give as many new people coming into the scene as big a code base as possible to try and learn from, essentially.
Yeah,
Uh,
but like if there's like existing community projects that do it right, like every single bot doesn't need to be open source for there to be a good code base for new people, right? Because like right now Command Center exists, and Command Center is an amazing starting point if someone wants to skip all the boring stuff, right? But
and also wants to be C++.
yeah, so maybe if like as the community gets bigger, if there are bots that are created with the same intention as Command Center in other languages, then like I don't see why every bot needs to be open sourced frequently with tournaments and stuff. Because like people will have this starting point, but I feel like a lot of people do like to keep secrets.
no, I can see the argument for that definitely. Again, we've already set the rules for this tournament, so I think
Oh yeah,
change.
yeah. The rules are set for this tournament. If anyone doesn't like it, they can just not enter in the tournament.
Yeah, I don't think changing it this time, but it's certainly something I'm willing to discuss and look at suggestions for future tournaments and anything like that. Again, the main reason for this is I talked to a bunch of people from the Bwapi community. Actually, it's a great name, Bwapi. I don't know.
Wappy.
But yeah, I talked to a bunch of the people from that community, and they kind of like very much encouraged that, and I could see their reasoning, which was basically like to encourage as many new people in as possible, you want to give as much diverse code base. So, but yeah, I definitely see the other argument as well, and like I'm gonna talk about it with you guys and with everyone else in the community and see if we can come to some sort of agreement where we can sort of like get a lot of the code released, but not obviously if you're not comfortable with that or want to keep some things secret, then that's entirely fine. But
I feel like you could also like potentially do something with allowing bot developers to not release all of their code if they have like a specific feature or something that they're like, no, this is a secret.
yeah,
That's like not their whole bot, but like just a small portion of it. And they're like, this is like core to my bot's success. I don't want to release it, but I'm okay with releasing the rest of my bot. I think something like that could also be reasonable.
yeah, definitely. We'll see anyway. We'll see how we can get on. And like as I said, I'm definitely open to suggestions of if anyone has wants to come in and talk about it and discuss it, then that's perfectly fine.
uh, I feel like no matter what happens, we have to decide it as a community. I have like two strong feelings either way, but
Yeah, a vote's totally reasonable for stuff like this.
Yeah, and yeah, it is all about building the right community and building a fun place to be, basically. But yeah, and at the end of the day, we're a learning environment, and this is something that has to be said. And like, I know we're not like necessarily at the forefront of cutting edge research all the time, and we're not always going to be releasing massively like groundbreaking research papers, but we do bring a lot of people into the community that maybe aren't as kind of like great programmers or anything like this, and we can kind of like bring them along and help their development as well. And I think that's very important as well. So yeah. Um, but anyway, like I said, I am perfectly open to discussion on this, and we'll see where we land with future tournaments. Um, so yeah. The other thing I think's been a discussion, unless you've got anything else to say on that, but so the opponent ID, which we added at the start of the this season, um, has been kind of interesting. So the reason for the opponent ID, which, in case you don't know, whenever a bot starts a game, because of the limitations of the client, um, it's unable to see the opponent's name. Now this became kind of like a standard thing within Starcraft 2 AI, but I kind of wanted to get the bot, advance the bot's learning a bit by adding something where it could tell which opponent it was facing. So essentially you couldn't tell the name of the opponent, but it was given a unique ID that you could track over a bunch of games. Um, but yeah, so I'm trying to assess whether this has been useful or whether it's going to become a hindrance to kind of like bot development. I know there's a bunch of strong opinions out there. Um, yeah, so what are your thoughts anyway of the opponent's ID?
So here's I actually had a discussion about something similar with a friend a few weeks ago, but uh, with regards to barcodes on the StarCraft ladder, which is pretty much the same thing, right? So
Yep.
on ladder, if your opponent's a barcode, you're going to know nothing about them versus maybe them having a name you recognize. And we were talking about how, at least in humans, it's good to be able to recognize your opponent's name because it inhibits one trick ponies, right? Because you'll see the name, you'll go, this is the guy who does that one thing, and then you'll be able to take something from that and metagame it. But the issue with bots is that they're really dumb and they can't do that. So what ends up happening instead is knowing your opponent's name just favors bots that have a like wide variety of lower quality strategies as opposed to bots that have a smaller number of higher quality strategies. Because if I make a bot that does two things really well, and someone else makes a bot that does 100 crappy things, but four of those crappy things can beat the things my bot does well, it's just going to switch between them until it finds it, right?
Yeah, yeah, no,
And that kind of leads to like the like higher complexity bots losing to just bots that are a bag of silly things. And like if you're not prepared for all 100 things that this guy's cooked up, his bot will eventually just abuse it.
yeah, no, I can see the argument there. Like, again, the reason for adding it, I wanted to kind of like see how bots would use it, but I think only kind of like about 3 or 4 bots on the ladder are actually using it properly at the moment, and it hasn't really advanced a lot. But you know, I don't know. Doctor, are you any strong opinions on this?
I don't have strong opinions. I remember suggesting it a long time ago, and I
Yeah,
guess it finally got implemented. But I'm a fan because I can know which bots are going to worker rush me, and then just like
yes,
blind counter it. Like that's like the extent of my desire to have it. Is like there's some really dumb cheeses that I just want to like detect and like prepare for. But other than that, like I'm like, whatever. It's,
yeah, no, I think that's fair. I kind of don't want to make rash decisions. I want to kind of like see how things play out a bit, and what I'll probably end up doing is taking a vote on it and seeing of all the bot authors and seeing who wants to keep it and who wants to leave it. But again, it's kind of like something that I really had a different vision for of how it's actually played out. I thought that essentially you'd be able to have bots that would kind of just learn their opponent's strategies more generically rather than just having them directly scripted in. I guess kind of that hasn't happened. Now, I don't know if it's just because it hasn't happened so far and that will kind of like come up later, but honestly, I haven't seen any sign of that. I haven't seen any kind of progress towards that yet.
And the game rate on ladder is so low, and even if we add like the distributed ladder or whatever, it's still not going to be high enough to do any meaningful learning, right? You're going to play
No.
a few dozen games a day. Like you're not going to learn from that. Like if you want to learn from it, rent your own hardware, play 1,000 games, and then you're going to get somewhere.
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
Well, and there's also a few solutions that I came up with for the opponent ID thing. So one would be to change them periodically so that bots would have to relearn. So imagine if, for instance, every 5 games between 2 opponents, the IDs switch. That means at least one of every 5 games, the bots would have to play blind, which kind of nullifies some of the advantage you get from knowing the ID, but not all of it because they're reset periodically.
Yeah.
A different sort of more complex solution would be to allow bots to choose to change their ID, with the catch that if they change their ID, the like presentation of all other bots' IDs to them are also changed. So I could change my ID, but that means losing any information I have about all my opponents as well. So with that sort of solution, a bot could change its ID after every single game, but would lose all hope of being able to learn from its opponents as well.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. Something worth considering. Um, but yeah, that would kind of disadvantage. No, I don't know.
Right? Because then bots that want
Yeah,
to meta other bots have to also be predictable, and bots that don't want to be predictable can't learn from their opponents.
yeah. That's an interesting idea. I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of like, hey, I'm just going to play blind, and then everyone's going to play blind against me. That's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly how we'd implement that. Other than, yeah, actually, that wouldn't be too difficult to implement, I don't think.
It
So
really wouldn't.
yeah, I mean, it's just a setting in the ladderbots config. I think you'd have to have, and then kind of like just detecting if it wants to change its ID after every game or something,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean, maybe have a setting on the website so we can just tell, sort of like let the bot authors select it. But yeah,
I think it's the easiest way. Just get everything from the website, because when it's all distributed, everything has to come from a single source of authority.
Sorry about that.
Like another
That's
idea
right.
is just get like, do we have some data on like how much having access to bot IDs is affecting win rates? Because I know you mentioned having a bot that can do 100 different like dumb things could beat out more complex bots, but like, is doing 100 different things actually like not in itself like a complex bot? Like I feel like.
But there are 100 like simple things, right? So it favors someone who's just like thrown a bunch of small, like easy to think of tricks in, which is time consuming, but like isn't very deep strategically, right? Over someone who has spent a lot of time perfecting a couple things, but maybe has some weakness. So the bot that I think abuses the current system the most is Tier's bot, because his bot does like a bunch of pretty silly things, right? It goes like 2 base mass void ray, 1 base DT, worker rush.
Yeah.
And if it discovers you're vulnerable to any of those individual sort of silly, inconsistent strats for the most part, I guess the mass void ray thing is kind of consistent because it's a more general style, but like especially like the worker rush, right? If it discovers you're vulnerable to worker rush, it's just going to worker rush you every single game, and that's kind of boring.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I know a lot of people. Anyway, but yeah, I do kind of like your idea of just having an option on there. That's actually good. But yeah, anyway, I think we'll see about that and kind of maybe take a vote at the end of the season and see where we land. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much about everything we want to talk about. So I'd like to do a quick Q&A on Twitter or anything like that. So, not Twitter, Twitch rather. I keep getting those two mixed up, like Twitch and Twitter. They're very different. But yeah,
I blame Amazon for not changing Twitch's name after they bought him.
yeah,
they need to change the branding, not be confused.
totally agree. So yeah, if you've got questions, ask them in Twitch chat.
There's quite a few, and I've been looking at them so far.
Yeah.
A lot of them are very context relevant. So I know we have some new people in here asking some general bot questions, or like, how does this stuff work? I don't know if we have the link to the Discord. Oh yeah, here we do. Copy link address. So if you're just new and joining us and getting started, there is a Discord channel I highly recommend you all join. I just pasted that into the chat.
Awesome.
There is a lot of resources in there that you can use to get started.
Yeah, also check out our wiki.
Yes, the wiki too. The wiki is also a fantastic place.
I'll get the address to that. Which is that one there. But yeah, so check that out. That's all good. So more games played on ladder per day going. So the progress for more ladder games per day, it's going well. The main problem at the moment is I had a few problems on getting the bot working directories uploaded and downloaded. So if we're going to move to a distributed ladder systems, what needs to happen is the bot's working directories need to be stored online, and then you need to be able to download them and then upload them with any additional learned data after every game. So I'm working on a client to be able to do that at the moment. It's not quite as simple as I hoped, but we are making progress, and hopefully I think it will definitely be ready for the start of next season. I had hoped to have it working sort of like this weekend, but that's not going to happen. So probably not for this season of the ladder, but certainly for next season of the ladder it'll be a lot better. And hopefully by that time we'll also have some kind of cloud sponsorship as well, so that would be good. Hope that answers your question. Tweakimp. Can we have a ladder pool that is not equal to the current SC2 ladder? Yes. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, is develop maps specifically that are kind of like AI designed rather than just going with cool. Yeah. Any map makers out there who fancy making us some maps, that would be amazing. And we would literally, we would love you forever, and we would stick them in our pool. But make them good maps though.
I saw a map on the, like, I don't know, in the custom maps where it's just one gas in the middle and a bunch of minerals.
See, the issue with maps like that though is like you don't want maps that encourage map specific programming, right?
I know, I don't know why I brought it up.
It's just silly. It's hilarious, but like, yeah, because a lot of people have said like, well, why don't you put in maps from like Wings of Liberty? And the answer is because a lot of those maps have problems where there's some horrifically broken thing on them in Legacy of the Void, like a place you can put a Liberator that just can't be dealt with, for instance, or a place you can cannon rush that just can't be dealt with. And the issue is if you put those maps in, then people are just going to say, if you're on the map, do the stupid thing.
Yeah.
And it leads to a lot of just kind of boring games where it's like, oh, he did the thing that's broken on this map. I guess he wins.
Yeah. Oh, it's something we need to be careful of. But I'm not sort of like against putting some of the older ladder maps in there. And
other maps that were at least from Legacy of the Void are probably fine because they were designed with things like Liberators in mind. But some maps just weren't. And like, for instance, Wings maps are much smaller than Legacy maps. And as a result of that, rushes are way, way better on Wings maps to the point where like they're very like almost unstoppable depending on the map.
yeah.
Whereas the Legacy maps have been balanced around the Legacy units and have rush distances that are reasonable for defending rushes, where it's kind of a fair balance between rushes being strong and rushes being holdable.
Yeah. I've noticed that Tickles has a huge win rate on like smaller maps compared to larger maps. Like
Oh, it's
so,
probably got great win rates on like Blue Shift and Fracture.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think on Acid Plant, its win rate is like 50% lower or something. It's ridiculous. But yeah,
Yeah. So imagine that on Zelnaga Caverns, like tiny, tiny little map. It's just like, oh, Orca Russian is just really broken on this map. Darn, like
yeah,
it's not interesting or fair to have maps that clearly favor one strategy.
no, I'd agree
I'm,
with that.
I'm imagining Liberators and Oracles on a scrap station.
Oh yeah, put a lib just behind your opponent's main. You can't mine. Have fun.
Yeah, that would be bad.
I mean, the Oracle distance on scrap station is like closer than proxying.
Yeah, the map was
A
shaped
lot
like
of
a,
maps.
was shaped like a
Yeah.
U.
Yeah.
So like you could go across the top very quickly.
Yeah,
It was my favorite map though.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get some 4-player maps back in the rotation though. So hopefully next season on the Blizzard ladder, it'll have some 4-player maps in.
The issue is that human players hate 4-player maps by and large
Yeah, hey, I don't.
because they favor gamblers.
Yeah, there we go. You know my history now, man. I actually spent 3 years playing poker half professionally, so
Well, you like 4-player maps.
yeah, exactly, pretty much. But yeah, so going back to the questions, do we know how the Google DeepMind people are doing? And you haven't heard anything from
The
them for a while?
last thing I've heard from any Google DeepMind person was, it's going well, and we don't have anything to say right now.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah,
So,
that's the same thing I heard.
They're chugging along. When they have something interesting to say, they'll say it.
Yeah,
But until then, I'm sure they're just going to keep quiet.
Yeah.
They've been very quiet because they're very results driven. If they show something, it's like, oh, this didn't work, people will be like, oh. But I know there's a lot of comparison to the Dota stuff, and I'm at least of the opinion that Dota is a lot more complex, or a lot simpler in some ways than Starcraft, just because you have 5 units versus the 200 of Dota. So like, learn why Dota's getting like more progress faster. It's different games have different challenges. So.
Yeah, I mean it's not quite as simple as the number of units, because I know Dota has a lot of like there's a lot of different abilities and you can do everything.
Sure, but my overall point is, like, just because like Dota's had progress doesn't mean Google stopped or DeepMind stopped working on Starcraft. Like, they're different games and they're having different challenges. So.
Yeah, and everything they do kind of advances the whole understanding of where kind of like the technology is going, which is good.
OpenAI on Dota, my bad.
Yeah, I want to like quickly respond to something Tweakimp said in the chat. He said worker rushes are a lot weaker on 4-player maps because you have to scout first. Yes, but now consider a 12 pool. A 12 pool has sort of a specific response that you want to do if you know it's coming. And versus a 12 pool bot, maybe he gets lucky and scouts first, and you get unlucky and scout last. You like against something like that, you're like, oh, I just lose. Why? Because I got unlucky. Like, that's not fun, right? You look and you're just like, shrug. Something that was completely out of my control happened. My opponent scouted me first, and I didn't scout him first. So the 12 pool is just more effective now, despite it being on a 4-player map. So 4-player maps aren't always favored for the defender. They're favored for whoever scouts first, and there's a random element in that, which maybe people like random elements, but personally I don't. So I don't like 4-player maps.
No, I can kind of understand that, but then again, kind of like on average, if you say that on average you're going to have a 50% scout rate or whatever, then it's going to be weaker on average, but not necessarily in that particular game.
Yeah, but like if you want to look at if your goal, for instance, is to win all of your games, it would be very frustrating to look at a game and say this was not my fault.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of, it could be discouraging where you're just like, my opponent got lucky and beat me, and that's true for human players too.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of why 4-player maps aren't common on the ladder anymore, is because it just feels terrible if you scout last and your opponent cheeses you and you're just like, crap.
Or you don't scout the CC first.
Yeah. You see, I'm just going back to my poker background here, and it's like always in poker you can't win every single hand. So you just kind of like sometimes you're just going to get unlucky and lose. That's fine. That's acceptable,
Yeah.
provided on average you can push your average up to higher. So
I think that's true in Starcraft too, but to a much, much lesser extent.
yeah,
Sometimes you
but
just get build order countered, and you're like, oops.
yeah, I definitely see the argument though. You're right
And
in what you say. Yeah.
there's one other factor too. So if I have a 12 pool bot, right, it only needs to scout 2 bases to tell where its 12 pool needs to go. Because if it's not in the first 2 bases, it knows it has to
Yeah.
attack the third one. But the defender of the 12 pool has to scout all 3 bases to know if it's a 12 pool. Because seeing nothing at the first 2 bases doesn't tell you if you're being 12 pooled or not. So that's another sort of detail that favors the guy doing something kind of coin flippy.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is I need to use the opponent ID, load all my workers in the CC, and fly it somewhere else.
Never find me.
That's all I'm hearing here.
Yep. There you go. Perfect. I think we have the perfect strategy. Right. So Tweakim says we need 3-player maps. God.
3-player maps still have the same issue, but
Yeah.
it's just not quite as bad because
Yeah.
they're a little smaller.
How do you boys handle finishing a game? I see lots of games on stream, one bot's 200 survivors, 10 aimers walking around. So Vauxhall, that's definitely a problem. At the moment, the games go for 45 minutes of in-game time or 1 hour of regular time. So bots make their moves at different intervals, so a lot of bots can be quite slow in a situation where there's lots of units in the game. So we limit that to an hour of real time or 45 minutes of in-game time. If they pass either of those thresholds, the game is considered a timeout and a draw. At the moment, it's considered a draw because I haven't had a chance to code out the detection code for which bot is slowing the game down in terms if it goes to more than an hour of real time. Next season, if a game goes to more than an hour of real time, or if a bot is taking too long over their moves, they'll be timed out and given a loss for that. So that's the basic.
So there was some like discussion about how to handle amount of times for bots in the ladder chat like a week or so ago. And one thing that I was talking about was the idea of having a chess clock kind of system where you start with, say, I don't know, 5 seconds of time, and you gain some number of milliseconds each frame. So bots that play faster in the early game could bank up some time to do more complex, slower things in the late game. And if your clock ever hits 0, you lose.
Actually, that's a really good idea.
Because that's how most sort of AI tournaments do it. Is you just have a time budget and you gain time every time you do a move, and if you run out, you lose. And the only issue is that right now we don't actually have a way to communicate how much time you have left to the bot each frame, which would be necessary.
Yeah, I could see that, but
I mean, at some level, we want these bots to play against people too. So I mean, you can't just have nonstop lag at like end game. So
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the bots, at least the ones that aren't written in Python, and I think most of the ones that are written in Python too, even run faster than real time, even in like pretty complex situations. Like for instance, there's no circumstance where either of my bots are slower than real time.
Yeah. At least when we try and calculate that using the completely broken code that I was using. Thanks for the PR, by the way, HX.
You should. You're gonna need to reset the stats because the numbers right now aren't even like, because at first we were like, they must be off by a factor of 10. Just divide by 10, it's fine. And then I looked at the average code and I was like, no, these values are actually just garbage. They're not meaningful. So like,
yeah, I know. I haven't uploaded the new working code to the ladder, but I'm gonna reset those as soon as I do, and then we'll have some new, less broken metrics. So I'd like to apologize for everyone for my broken code. It happens occasionally. I'm not quite perfect, really. But yeah. So hopefully next season we'll get some working values and we can use that to key off. And certainly it's something we're going to be having a discussion about and trying to figure out the best way of doing. So yeah. So asks, what do you think the next breakthrough needs to be in SC2 AI to really improve these boots? I take it you mean bots and not boots. My boots do need improving, but my bots probably need improving better, which is good.
I need some boots too. I propose next season's the SC2 boot tournament.
Yeah.
So my answer to that question is actually something I'm working on in my bot literally right now. And it's the ability to model your opponent and what your opponent has and what your opponent's doing. So like how big their army is, how much economy they have, what sort of tech level they're at. Because right now a lot of the bots are just really dumb and they attack when they're either maxed out or maybe if they think they're ahead, but most of them don't even do that. And I think once bots start having sort of reasonable, realistic models of what their opponent is doing and what their opponent's capable of, you can be more decisive, right? Because you just say, "Oh, my opponent has nothing. I guess I should go kill them," or "Oh, my opponent has a lot. I should probably tech up to something better." As opposed to, for instance, my bot right now in ZVT stays on Ling Muta forever, and if its opponent maxes out on better units than Ling Muta, it'll just keep crashing Ling Muta and it'll never realize, oh, my opponent has a good army. Maybe I should build Broodlords or Ultralisks or something. So I think once modeling of opponents becomes better, we'll see bots that kind of play in a more reasonable human way where they like actually react to what their opponent's doing and try to kill them when they think they can.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that like a lot of the bots, like you said, are just executing a single strategy and want to keep executing that no matter what the game situation is. But yeah, as soon as we kind of like move away from that, but then at the moment the meta game is kind of rewarding that in some respects. So I think that the more people try and do that kind of like more reactive style rather than just executing on their single strategy, that will be certainly a major thing that will help. But yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to see that next season. Like, let's say the explosion that we've had this season. I mean, going back to, I know I mentioned it last week, but at the end of the last season we had like 12 bots on ladder. Now we have nearly 50 in the space of probably 3 months. So
I'm not quite sure what happened, but
Someone put up an announcement saying, "Who wants to win a very expensive graphics card?" And the whole community said, "Me, I want to."
yeah, I'd like to think it wasn't just that, and people were kind of like excited about doing it, but you know. So yeah, hopefully. I've had news that's being delivered hopefully this week, so I should be able to
Exciting.
get those.
We can see which Titan X it is because there's like 4 different kinds now.
Oh yeah, as soon as I get them, I'm like posting a photo on Discord of me holding them too, and like.
I guess you won the latest tournament.
I'm actually really excited for the group selection process for the tournament. I think the way that the tournament does it is kind of cool, where the highest ranked bots get to throw bots into their opponents' groups. It'd be like,
Yeah.
like for instance, so right now it would be Yan and Tyr. So for instance, Tyr could say, put a bot that's really good against Yobot and Yobot's group, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting and exciting. And like, we'll see what bots get thrown into the other groups first. Because I feel like a lot of the higher ranked bots are the ones that are doing those sort of cheesy, well executed, but still like gimmicky strategies.
Yeah.
So I feel like they don't want someone like me in their group
No.
because my bot doesn't lose to that stuff.
Yeah. I get the sense you'll be picked fairly early, but it'll be interesting. Anyway, we're gonna do a full show with hopefully get all of the bot authors who've qualified or as many as possible into like either a video conf or like at least into Discord with voice, and we'll do a show with doing that and send it out on the Twitch stream, and hopefully make an interesting show out of it. It'll be good.
Yeah, that'll be exciting, and there'll be a lot of smack talk.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. I hope you got that ready. But yeah. So yeah, I think we've been going almost an hour, so I'm probably going to call it there unless there's any other burning questions. I will give them.
Yeah, I want Yamabushi in a call. I want to hear his analysis of his opponents. because I think he is one of the people that, since his bot is like constantly updated to beat certain bots, that he'll be like, I have something secret planned for you, stuff like that. No.
That would be really good. But so Foxor, when's this normally? Yeah, normally. So this is the second time it's been done. It normally goes out at 9:30 UTC on Sunday evenings. Hopefully, we'll be doing it again next week when we will know the full lineup for the tournament. So that should be an interesting one. Make sure to join us then. H-Jax, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us.
Awesome.
And I will see you all next week. Bye.
Later.